Hey there. Today, let's talk about tasks in a custom Airtable CRM. Now, tasks are probably the place you're going to spend the most time in any CRM system. So it's also the place you should probably spend the most time customizing your solution so that it fits with your way of thinking about getting work done. Now, I'll walk through a couple different ways I think about getting work done through the dashboards I've built in this CRM. But first, I want to talk to you about the database structure, the anatomy of a task in a system like Airtable. So I have a specific task pulled up here so we can walk through the different attributes and relationships of this task. First off, we have a relationship to the household table in our Airtable database. This is the key relationship for a task, right? If it's not assigned to a household, it kind of exists in the ether. So in this case, I have a task that's related to Victor Avery. I could remove that and add in a link to any other client if I needed to. I could also add links to multiple clients and have the relationship be kind of multimodal, right? In this case, it might be a task that belongs to, say, 5 clients at once. You need to do the same review for all of them. So you can add them all to one task rather than repeating the same task 5 separate times. Outside of the relationships, we also have a couple different attribute fields of the task itself. So for example, I can take notes on this task. I can assign an owner. I can assign a status. In this case, I just have a couple simple status fields, but if you have a larger team and need things like an in progress, a needs review page, you can have that tag on here as well. We also have some task tags. You can add as many or as few as you want to any given task. You could use this to filter for certain types of work or just kind of quickly know what type of work you're looking at before you start something. We then have a start date, due date, and duration field for each task. In this case, the duration field will update automatically if I change the due date or start date. So for example, if I change this due date to the 10th, we can watch the duration field update. In this build, I'm using a duration calculation that doesn't take into account weekends or holidays, but if you're someone who gets a lot of work done on the weekends, you could include those days in this calculation. I also have a task completion date field that will update automatically based on when I change the task status to done. Right? So if I change that to done, we'll see it'll populate with today's date. This is a great way to kind of audit and check yourself on whether you're being too aggressive or too conservative with the due dates you're assigning to your work. Now let's go ahead and reset that before we close out of here. One other thing to point out is that I can also put a relationship in here to meetings. So for example, this task stemmed from a meeting with Victor back in December. I could also link to a meeting in the future if I wanted to say I need to have this task done before this next meeting. Again, like household, you could link multiple meetings if this is a task that runs over a long period of time. I could also, if I wanted to, build out something like a projects table that maybe collects groups of tasks and relate those to this as well. So with that all said, we have, again, kind of this database spreadsheet view, but it's not the best place to actually get work done. For that, let's go over to the interfaces tables, right? And so here we have dashboards that are visually a little bit easier for us to look at and easier to think about how to get work done. On this first one, all I have is a list of all of my tasks with some filters and sorts automatically applied. So for example, I can sort by status. By clicking on that, I can sort by task start date or due date. I can open all of these tasks and see those same attribute fields and edit those same attribute fields just like I could from the data side. I can also use these at the top to go to a couple different pre-selected filters. For example, an overdue task I might have. Anything that's closed, for example, if I close the task accidentally, I can come back over here and change the status back to in progress or not started. I can also look at every task that I have, right, not done, started, in progress, all of that at one point if I ever needed that view. I can also add additional filters and sorts to this page if I wanted to, for example, just look at a single household's page, but it's not necessarily the best place for me to do that. For other sorts and filters, let's go to some of the other views we built in. So next, we have that task by household build already created. In this place, I can look at basically all of my tasks just grouped together by household. So I can see all of Victor Avery's tasks, all of Henry and Claire's tasks, and so on and so forth. I have the same filters up at the top where I can see tasks for any clients who have overdue tasks. I can see closed tasks, etc. Now, this is getting closer to something that's really useful to slice and dice your work, but what if you wanted to look at a couple different other visualizations? Let's go over to this next dashboard, which is showing us all of our tasks down the left-hand side of the screen and the actual underlying attributes or information for that task on the right side, taking up most of the page real estate. This one allows you to really skip a lot of the click-throughs that some of the other views I showed you have and quickly just click on any task and add any information that you needed to. Now, let's say you like the idea of grouping by household, but you like this view, right? So you want this to be a group of basically by household and this to still be all of the information. You don't want this to be the not started information. Let's go ahead and build that live. So I'm just going to go to the edit function, and instead of being grouped by task status, all I'm going to do is change that to group by household. Now I have all of this information off to the side, right? So if I hit publish on this, I can very quickly see for any specific client what tasks I have. Now that's great, but what if I don't want to see the done tasks for a client? Let's go back to edit again and add a filter and say that a task status is not done. That's all we have to do. We now have a new view that shows us exactly what we want to see, right? Grouped by client, what task they have open. Next, what if you're an extra visual person and you want to look at things as a Kanban? Now, all we have to do for that is select a dashboard with a Kanban view. In this case, we're looking at things with each of the various statuses up at the top, and we can drag and drop them between these fields to make updates, right? So this lost its not started page, when I deleted the done, I can go ahead and just drop that back onto not started, and it will be sorted back into that section. Lastly, we have a timeline view, which essentially allows you to plot all of your tasks based on the start and end date on a calendar, see all of them at once, what task you might have said you're going to work on at the same time. You can also edit these straight from here. So for example, if I want to start this task earlier, I can drag it to have a new date. I can also extend a deadline or move a start date this way. And so these are just a couple different ways to visualize getting work done in your Airtable CRM. Feel free to come at me with any questions or anything that this sparked for you on other ways you might want to visualize your way of getting work done.